Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session of Rumination with Andrew. Thank you so much for joining as we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. And today we are going to continue to look at the deplorable conditions of our roads in Jamaica. The Jamaican roads are in a most deplorable conditions. And, this morning, Michael Abrahams, right? And Michael Abrahams is an obstetrician and he's also a gynecologist. Let me make sure that I am saying what is here. Yes, Michael Abrahams is an obstetrician and gynecologist, social commentator, and human rights advocate, right? So many people know Michael Abrahams, if not for his medical career, but they also know him for his being a comedian. And let me see if I can share my screen here of the pictures that either the Gleaner published or he actually took of the deplorable conditions of the roads in Jamaica. And this is not just what Michael Abrahams is seeing. This is what is throughout the country, right? We're seeing these potholes, these craters, as some people would call them. And the government of Jamaica seems not to be concerned about these sort of development. In fact, may I suggest here this morning that I was watching rather a TikTok video, a clip on TikTok, in which someone was advertising some of the apartments in Jamaica. And when you look at the deplorable conditions of our roads that lead up to these apartments, right, on which these apartments are domiciled, you really wonder, why is it that the prices are so high? If the Jamaican government does not fix the roads, all of these property prices should go down. They should not be valued for their true prices because people need proper roads and proper facilities, amenities to be able to get to and from these so-called luxurious apartments. I think what we're concerned about only is just the interior, but the exterior should not be properly maintained. But that is not true. And those of you with these lovely apartments, try to have a landscape, plant some nice flowers and have some greenery for the place to look good. And that people can feel that, the sacrifices that they have made to purchase such an apartment or house. It seems that they're now in apartment craze in Kingston, just like what Andrew Holness saw in Santo Domingo, right? I think Andrew Holness has been to the Dominican Republic and he is just simply, following the developments that he sees here in Santo Domingo with these very high-rise skyscrapers. That is what he's doing there in Kingston. But to be frank with you, the Dominican neighborhoods, the ones that are, in which the prices are high in terms of their apartments, I think that they are in much better conditions. You would not see this level of roads like this if you were to be buying a very luxurious apartment in Santo Domingo. The roads would be in proper condition, would be properly maintained. But our roads are not properly maintained, even when they are in so-called upper scale neighborhoods. All our neighborhoods, the entire Jamaica at this moment looks like a ghetto. The entire Jamaica looks like a ghetto. And you don't have to tell me that why are you washing our dirty linens in the public? Because it's in public view, it's in the public's view. Right? People go there, foreigners go there and they take pictures and they comment on the poor conditions of the Jamaican roads. I think we have just come to accept the poor conditions, just like how we accept crime as an everyday part of our life, right? I think that is what is happening in Jamaica. So there is no sort of commitment from the government, and the people are not holding the government to account. And don't come and tell me about the PNP and what the PNP is doing and not doing. We have to hold the incumbent government to account. That is the government. When the PNP comes back to power, then you should also hold them to account. And that is my understanding. And that is the right thing to do. That's the correct thing to do. Now, we have here Michael Abraham's Pothole Crosses. That's what he's saying. It's a cross, right? crosses there, which means that he's suggesting it could be, of course, double entendre, or double meaning here, in the sense that he's suggesting that it could be crosses in terms of the burdens and it could be that they have to cross these potholes. Literally, they have to swerve so that their cars are not damaged. Michael Abraham's continued to say, our roads are a disgrace. On my way to work 2 Fridays ago, I visited 3 health insurance companies, the Guardian, the Canopy, and Sagicor in New Kingston. So these are roads in New Kingston that should be modern, even though I think New Kingston, it can now be called Old Kingston because there's nothing modern about it. In New Kingston, before arriving at my practice, I drove on 12 roads between leaving my home and arriving at the office. And how many of these roads had problems or had potholes, he's asking. All of them, including those in my community and the road on which my office is located. And I'm sure that, Michael Abrahams lives in a relatively good community, I'm sure. The roads in New Kingston that I drove on were Trafalgar Road, which should be an upper class area. Well, not upper class, but upper middle class. Musgrave Avenue, St. Lucia Avenue, Barbados Avenue, Knoxford Boulevard, Grenada Crescent, Antigua Avenue, Dumfries Road, and Holborn Road. Our roads have always been substandard. Our roads have always been substandard. And I agree with Michael Abrahams. In my youth, Jamaicans would quip that to drive on our thoroughfares, you must have a PhD, pothole dodger qualification in his youth. And, Michael Abrahams must be now in his 50s, I would think. But what I have been encountering for the past year is unprecedented. But Jamaica is a prosperous country. And that is why they took our Nigel Clark to IMF to tell him that, look here, he is the best finance minister since sliced bread. He is the best finance minister, and we had to relieve him because the IMF found him to be so important. Right? And this is the sort of poor thinking that we have in Jamaica. But what I have been encountering for the past year is unprecedented, he suggested. I have been driving for 42 years and have never seen our roads in such a deplorable condition. This is what Michael Abrahams has suggested, right? And is, in fact, truthful. Let me repeat that. According to Michael Abrahams, he says that he has been driving for the past 42 years and he has never seen the roads in Jamaica in such a deplorable condition. In the past, whenever I got a flat tire, it would have been because a nail or some other sharp object punctured it. Nowadays, when I get a flat tire, it is because the tire has been damaged by a pothole, sometimes beyond repair, or because the rim has been cracked or dented. And for the front end of my vehicle, it has also taken a beating. So when we think about this, this is not going to only cause the consumer lots of money to repair, right? To repair their cars, sometimes to replace the car, right? In a society, in an economy that is already depressed. But I saw Andrew Holness on TikTok last night, and he was suggesting that the economy is in this great, he has another video out in which he's suggesting that the economy is in it's the best shape that it has ever found itself. And he said he doesn't even have to, talk about it because the fruits are being seen. The fruits of Andrew Holness's labor are being seen. And you really wonder, what is he thinking? Where are the critical thinking skills? Well, you don't have to have critical thinking skills to be called a doctor nowadays, right? You just have a title, brandishing and behaving as if you're a doctor, and that is how things, because it's almost more for, it's a show, right? There's no substance to it, it's just a show. I have always driven sedans. He said that's the car that he drives. Last year, when I went to the dealership, I bought my last one to replace it with a newer version. I was told that the company no longer sells that model because there is more demand for sports utility cars as SUVs due to the state of our roads. So he can't get a sedan because People don't want sedans in Jamaica because if they drive it, it's going to be damaged by the conditions of our roads. And let me say something to you, as Michael Abrahams is here suggesting. When they do these things, they're not going to repair the roads, because if the car dealership is getting money because you're forced to buy SUVs, then they will keep the conditions of the roads in that condition. Just even have these car dealerships get their sale. This is what globalization is all about. This is what globalization is all about, the neoliberal agenda. And that is how it is. And you have to deal with it because you love it. So buy your SUVs and let them, and the more the demand is higher, or the demand gets higher for the SUVs, then the prices are going to skyrocket. And you'll have to buy it, right? Because you love to drive your cars and you like to feel important. When I visited another dealership to buy a sedan similar to the one I had bought from them before the above-mentioned car, I was told that the company had stopped selling sedans for the same reason as the previous dealership. Our roads are so bad that some motorists would not even consider purchasing a sedan. So now, for the first time, I'm driving an SUV. Right? He's saying that he loves sedan, and because of the poor conditions of our roads, Michael Abrahams don't even have the freedom. He doesn't have the freedom of purchasing a sedan, even though we're living in democracy. And the free market is what is there. And Jamaicans are free and they love to drive their SUVs and think that they're important, right? While being slaves on that grand plantation. We make jokes about our potholes, and I think that is what happens. We make joke about everything, and we don't take life down there seriously. One of our funniest comedians, the late Elva Roddock, commented, and I quote here, "Other countries have potholes in their roads, but we have roads in our potholes." And that's funny, right? Let me repeat that joke. Other countries have potholes in their roads, but we have roads in our potholes. That was very creative, I must say. But the state of our roads is no laughing matter. They wreak havoc on our vehicles. I recently made a video based on a poem. I saw that. I wrote titled Pothole Crosses and shared across several social media platforms. The comment sections under the video and the WhatsApp messages and phone calls I received from people who saw it confirmed that our roads are severely adversely affecting us and costing us a lot of money. And it will eventually cost us a lot of lives also. There was a deluge of comments from people telling me about having to buy tires and fix rims and spend a fortune on front end parts and repairs. But they deserve it. Let them, they get what they deserve, and let them pay it, and let them, rack up debt. Because when you speak about the conditions of the roads, people don't care. People don't care. They say, what happens when the PNP had bad roads too? And they begin to make all of these nonsensical comments, right? Because they lack the ability to reason and to think in Jamaica, right? It's no laughing stock, and they're going to laugh, and afterwards they laugh, and tomorrow everything is fine and dandy, right? Now, last December, Prime Minister Andrew Holness declared Jamaica's road situation a national emergency, allocated $2 billion, which is just a paltry sum of money, to effect repairs, and announced the Shared Prosperity Through Accelerated Improvement in our road network, the SPARK program, with a budget of over $45 billion. Now, listen to what he's suggesting here. Of that $45 billion, some $3 billion had already been allocated under the REACH program announced after Hurricane Beryl impacted the island on July 3rd, 2024. I commend our Prime Minister for recognizing the crisis and announcing these interventions. However, I find his refusal to take responsibility for any of what is happening now to be disturbing. He said the deplorable state of our roads is not a result of neglect by his administration, but other factors, including previous administrations and climate change. And that is what he said. He says that it's just the previous administrations never took care of the roads, and climate change is a result. Right? Those claims are both ridiculous and disingenuous. The fact is that both previous administrations and Holness's administration are responsible for the mess we are now in. both administrations. And I'm happy that Michael Abraham has the tenacity and the testicular fortitude to suggest that this is what is happening, that it doesn't have, isn't a PNP or JLP problem. This is a party politics problem. The fact that our leaders are just not paying attention to the conditions of our roads. While the People's National Party, PNP, opposition calls out Holness for his administration's negligence of our roads, they must also acknowledge their role. It was their Minister of Transport and Works, Robert Pickersgill, who promised that we would be pothole-free in 2003 and failed to keep his promise. When Jamaican singer Tesson Chin won a vehicle on the singing contest, The Voice, I remember that, and laughingly remarked that we have the worst roads in 2013. She did say that. The PNP's Portia Simpson Miller was our prime minister. The opposition berated Holness for repeating the Road Maintenance Fund Act they instituted in 2002, after his administration repealed it in 2017. But while the act existed, our road infrastructure was still lacking, because we love the ghetto. We love the ghetto and the ghetto whatever, because Jamaica is a big ghetto. And we love it. Is Jamaica nice, but we just love the ghetto. It's a ghetto, the ghetto in us, ghetto mind, and everything is performative. Right? Everything in Jamaica is ghetto. And we love it that way. We enjoy it that way. Even the way they're presenting, as I'm suggesting, the sale of some of these very expensive apartments. You look around in the community, it's a ghetto. Right? It's not impressive. Andrew Holness has been our prime minister for the past 9 years, and under his watch, our roads have deteriorated to the most deplorable condition many of us have ever seen. I think so too. I think so too. I was suggesting to somebody the other day that even in Brownstown, when, in Brownstown, in the rural area of Brownstown, the roads were better off in the 1990s, in my recollection, than they are now. Well, I understand they probably recently fixed some of them, but the roads were better, in much better conditions in the 1980s and 1990s, my recollection, right? Than they are now, and we're living in the 21st century. Under the Andrew Holness's led administration, he's a PhD in whatever he is, and he doesn't know how to run a country. How can he not take at least some responsibility? We experienced more rainfall than usual during the latter part of the last year, but there is no excuse for the multiplicity of craters that persist on our thoroughfares. Yeah, how can you just say, because you just got some rains, an experience of, above average rainfall last November, and blame that crisis for the poor conditions of the roads? And you have intelligent people, or so-called, because not everybody who sounds intelligent is intelligent. You have so-called intelligent people who will say to me that, well, the rains fell and he's waiting for the rains to ease up, and then he will fix the roads. Because they think that they just listen to what they've heard and they're just simply communicating what the Prime Minister has suggested. But if you should look at the years that Mr. Holness is in office for, 8 years. Well, it's heading 8 years now. 7 going 8 years. He should, it's 8 years, because he came in 2016. So yes, it's 8 years. He's in office for 8 years, right? So he is fully responsible, right? The PNP and Jamaica Labor Party governments have taken turns shortchanging us with respect to our roads. Shoddy workmanship using substandard materials that result in poorly constructed roads with inadequate drainage, in addition to poor maintenance, plus corruption, with contracts being given to suboptimally qualified friends and associates, along with kickbacks, have resulted in major inconveniences for our populace. Because the populace is not important. The inferior road construction has not only cost us financially, but some have paid with their lives, as potholes and other road defects have caused fatal accidents, right? And you'll hear them drive carefully and be careful on your roads. At the same time, that is hypocritical And they pay huge sums of money on radio stations to tell, the drivers to drive safely on our roads and to obey road traffic rules and all of that. But at the same time, the government is not obeying the law to fix our roads and to, make good roads. The Spark program is on the way, and I hope it does make a difference, he's suggesting here. However, our political leaders on both sides of the aisle must commit to doing what is in the country's best interest and not what is beneficial to themselves and their cronies, which they will always do, because there is no one there to unmask the corruption or the corruption activities that we find in Jamaica. The media is dead, so there's not much there that can be done. Instead of patching and repairing roads as local government and general elections approach, they need to invest in the best and most qualified personnel, equipment, and materials, and pay attention to the maintenance of our thoroughfares. There is no reason why we cannot have good roads. And he's right. There's no reason why we cannot have good roads. Why shouldn't we have good roads? That's the question. Don't you think Jamaicans, you deserve good roads? Do you think you just deserve to drive in a SUV car and you have to maintain it over and over again because of the poor conditions of our roads? Why do you accept so little from the government? Why don't you demand much of your sitting government? Why do you continue to heap encomiums upon these people when they're ordinary people? You have made them into demigods. You've made them feel more important than they are. They should be public servants, but you have created in them, you have allowed them to be demigods. Right? They're your servants. They are tasked with being your servants, but you have made them into political, what do you call them now? These rock stars. The politicians are political rock stars. That's how Andrew Holness behaves, like a rock star, right? That's how he behaves. And he's posting himself on social media and feeling like he's important. You have made them into who they are. And they are treating you as subjects, and they're subjects. They are the sovereign, and you are the little subjects there. You are the little slaves there, and they can use your money to do whatever they want to do. Right? And you have not yet begun to wake up. And you will never wake up. Jamaicans will never wake up because they like what they see. They like what they see, and then they laugh and they whatever, and other countries, that's why the other countries are dissing you. And you're saying, oh, Jamaicans are famous in the Caribbean and in the world and whatever. Who cares about being famous and living in an underdeveloped, highly semi-literate, with deplorable roads there? Who cares about if you're famous or not? Do you think the average person thinks about Jamaica in the world? And when they come to Jamaica and see those roads and the poor conditions of the living standards of our people, what do you think they think about you? Oh, I have my house in Stone Hill, or I have my house in whatever in the mountain, the hills. You think they're impressed? Do you think wonderful houses are everywhere? Right? It's time for us to grow up. It is time for Jamaicans to grow up and stop being childish. You behave like a child. And a lot of the comments I see and a lot of the podcasts I'm seeing online, right, shows that our minds have not yet been developed. And when are we going to grow up? I don't know. But you tell me. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe, and would you like the video so the video can be shared with as many people on the platform. Hasta luego.